Remember the road that will lead you home. No matter where you go, remember the road that will lead you home. That will lead you home. That will lead you home.
Come on, we can do better than that. I was speaking with a couple of people yesterday, and I won't mention names, but there's one thing that they said about what happened in this conference and what happened. It was yesterday at the dance when, if I do some calculations, I find out how many countries were involved, but we're doing the line dancing and the synchronization across, and I'm just going to say it has to be more than 15, 16, 20 countries was intense. That is unity. That is what we are about. That's what we should be doing. That was a pure example of how we can come together and work together and make Africa great. Please clap for yourselves for that. I'd like to say something else. PMI is different. I've been to several conferences in the past. You go to the conference in the morning, they give you technical talk, and you go. That's not how we do things. In Africa, again, it's not specific, it's generic. We made this conference African. The whole point of making this conference African is to make sure we're mingling amongst ourselves. We bring you here, you have lunch, we insist, and I've said it several times, insist you network. I test you. So if you haven't, I don't know what I'll do, but if you haven't, there'll be problems. Okay? Why? Because it is important that we share experiences. Okay? I said earlier in the opening that all we hear is bad or negative things about Africa. Why? Because you guys are not talking. I'm not talking. Okay? The conference was there so that we start talking about ourselves. I'll talk about the presentations. None of the presenters knew what the other was presenting. If you look through the presentations, the series, there were messages, almost all the same. We're talking about population growth. We're talking about culture. We're talking about working together. We're talking about unity. We're talking about collaboration. We all know that is what it's about. This is what this conference, and this is what PMI, through this conference, is trying to do. We need to start talking for ourselves. The more we do it, the better we can make Africa better. That's one of the things we're talking about. The concept behind, or the theme behind the conference, growth made possible, continue to be made possible, I'm going to add some more to it, by project managers. Project managers are me and you. We do it. Okay? And we're trying to promote that concept of doing it. So throughout this thing, messages have been said. And what I would like everybody here to at least go back and do one thing. How am I going to make things better for Africa? You can look at your country, because if you do it specific for your country, it is still making it better for Africa. This is not one country conference. It is 14 different countries coming together, 14 different PMI chapters to be specific, coming together. The requirements for other chapters, but it's 14 specific chapters in PMI coming together to help to make Africa great. Everybody has a part to play. Every organization has a part to play. PMI knows its path. Some other things that PMI knows the potential of Africa, and they've made changes within the organization to make sure that potential is reaped. Okay? Sunil, our president and CEO, he's from Africa, so that helps. But he specifically assigned somebody to deal with this region. All of us have to make sure that we can work with the person to make it happen. It is our responsibility now. If PMI has put a structure in place, it's for us, and I'm focusing purely on project management, because that's what we do. We know if you want to get results, you do it through what? What do projects help? Processes, principles. We've heard things about processes, principles, and people. We work with people. So that's the key thing. The other thing about PMI and the way we do things that other conferences don't do is that we have fun. Yeah. Do we have fun? Yeah. And when people ask, I say, fun is important because work is hard. Work is actually hard. Now, if you're only doing hard things all the time, you're going to burn yourself out. So it's important that when you work hard, you play. There are various versions of play. You can play harder, or even harder, or just play. But you must play. All work and no play. So PMI always emphasizes have fun. And then a couple of presentations said it. So it's not only PMI. We understand that when you work, you must play. So it's important that you understand how PMI conferences work, because that's what we're all about. If you look at the agenda, even though it says closing remarks, it still ends with networking. We don't want you to finish this conference and everybody goes away. We want you to continue to talk, continue to share messages, and take some messages back. That is how PMI does things, and this is how this conference wants it to be. You saw yesterday that people came in culture aware. We had cultural dances. We're doing that because it's Africa. That's our way. We can insist you all come in suits or business casual and words like that. No, it's a combination. If it's cultural issue, do it. Wear it. Be proud. The other thing I like to talk is that every time I hear a couple of things, people, and I use the word, just give excuses. It can't work. It doesn't work. Everything can work. The same problems you're complaining about happen outside Africa. But they don't make noise about it. They look for solutions to fix it. As project managers, we need to look for the solutions to fix it and stop complaining. It's for us to do it. So if it's one thing I want to explain to everybody here, stop giving yourself excuses. I don't care whether it's government, whether it's this or that. Stop giving yourself excuses and find that little sphere, and I love that word, that you can make a change. Everybody can make a change, one way or the other. Don't think of the big things. Oh, I think I need to live in a house, and it has to be this kind of house. If you put an umbrella over your head, that's shelter. You're doing something. Just try to do something and start it. We can all do that. So, I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping tips before I go on. We talked about the presentations and photos, just to make sure that everybody is aware of it. The presentations and photos will be available. Actually, before I came up, they told me 2 to 4 weeks. But we're an agile organization. So it's 2 weeks now. They've committed. So all the photographs and all the presentations that will be available, and they'll be available in 2 weeks. Earlier on, we talked about metrics, and you have to be able to measure yourself and see how well you performed. We want to see how well we performed at this conference. So a survey will go out, okay? And I plead on all of you to give us feedback. Good, bad, okay? Don't be shy. So please be honest on the survey. Now the survey, we want to tie it in, so you have the pictures, you have the presentations, and the survey as well. So that will go out. Does it still remain 2 to 4 weeks, or is it now 2? 2! Agility works, man. I love it. I love it. The other thing, conference day, photos and presentations. For those that have PMI certifications and know about PDUs, Once you've been scanned, you don't need to do anything about it. We have all your details. We will upload them for you, all the delegates. You get your 12.5 PDUs, depending on how you are sent. We'll do that for you. Having said that, and funny enough, I'm not using my slides. I'm just talking from my notes. It was testing your memory. So I took it away. Now I can bring it back. This, we've talked about the conference. This is a fourth conference. They all have messages. We're trying to build it up. But it doesn't just happen. It's made possible. It's very important. So there are quite a number of people, individuals, organizations that have made this conference possible. Firstly, I'd like to recognize our sponsors, Oracle. So people from Oracle present as a sponsor, please identify yourself. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Similarly, we have another sponsor, Creative PMO. Can you identify yourself and give them? I'll also there's a lot. You've seen the presentations. I've talked about how the presentations were, and they weren't linked together. We had an entire team working on reviewing presentations, selecting speakers. I'd like Mary and any member of her team to identify themselves, please. It was hard work putting it together, so let's give her another round of applause. If I step back a bit before I go further, one point that everybody needs to know here is that PMI is a volunteer-based organization. I'm a volunteer. I'm taking up my own time to give a message across, okay? Most volunteers, including Mary, and I go through others, are volunteers. It is their own time. They want to give back in one way or the other, okay? So, and I'm passionate about project management also, that they also have passion. That's why they're ready to give their time. So it is important to note that when I identify a group as volunteers, that you give them a bigger round of applause, massive round of applause, because they're giving back. Mary and her team did not work alone. I'd like to thank the members of the PMI staff, chapter development team, that assisted to make sure this whole package came together. So can you please identify yourselves? Now, this part I won't do by myself because we work as a team. So I'd like to call Anel, President of the PMI Tanzania chapter, to the stage.